cafe anyway.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Episode 2094. Well, here we are. It's a show that's entitled
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Ever notice how people are always discovering podcasts? They're always like, oh, did you hear about this new thing? It's called podcasts. Well, it's not something new. In fact, it's been here for a long time. I got onto it pretty late in 2009, and there are people who have been doing it since the 80s. Yes, there have been a form of podcasting in the 80s, but I'm not sure.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
I'm not sure exactly how that worked. Like, did you record it on tape and then mail it out to people? Maybe that's what it was.
Mike's
Okay.
Daily
At any rate,
Podcast.
I was going to rant like crazy at the beginning of the show today, but I decided to follow my better angels and not go into a whole tirade about how not a single person reached out to me about Basil, except for the people that I told personally, the people that I called up personally and told them, or they were told by someone that I know. Then that was it. But none of you listeners contacted me. So basically that tells me no one listens to this podcast at all, because no one contacted me at MikesDailyPodcast@gmail.com or tried to call me at 336MM Daily. That's 3 + 3 = 6MM as in Mike Matthews Daily, as in what this podcast is not. Because why should I bother when no one freaking calls me or tells me or sends me any condolences for a person? Yes, a person. Basil was a person. A doggy person who has been on every single show since the beginning. Every single Mike's Daily Podcast he's been on. And you don't even contact nothing. So that's it. That's it. That has told me no one listens to this podcast at all. And this is just me recording frivolously a show that gets uploaded to a bunch of places all over the internet. Should I write? I would run down the list for you right now, but it probably bore you silly.
And here's today's podcast picture.
But then again, who cares? No one's listening. Let's see. There's, it's on YouTube, SoundCloud, TuneIn, Stitcher, Podomatic, Mixcloud, Spreaker, Player FM. I'm even on Pinterest, Tumblr, Instagram, Twitter, Deezer, Spotify, Facebook, of course, Launchpad, Anchor FM, Podcast Addict, and iHeartRadio, as well as Spotify. Did I miss it? Yeah. And I've got 2 SoundCloud accounts, one that's got past interviews that I did with musicians. Oh, the wrath of angry Basil. His ghost is coming back to attack you. He is so mad. He is just full of... So, let's frickin' show a little, Come on. This is a one-of-a-kind podcast. Seriously, there's nothing like this. Where else is a host going to chew you out for not contacting him that his dog died? Huh? Oh, I'm also on Flickr. So yeah, come on. Show a little dang compassion for Mike Matthews. I'm seriously fed up with you. What in the heck? But that's the kind of, you know what? That's what gets people to listen, is conflict. And so now there's conflict, and it's between you and me. It's not conflict between me and the characters. The podcast, the Cafe Anyway characters. It's between you and me. And so, come on. Show a little backbone and contact me. That's all I'm saying. And I've said it a couple times, so I guess I'll stop saying it. Hey, I'm recording a little part now on YouTube. And on YouTube, one thing you realize is that this is not the audio that you're hearing on this little YouTube video I'm doing. The microphone's way over here somewhere on this little device. So this is really pointless to do this. But hey, if you listen to the show, to Mike's Daily Podcast and Mike's Smooth Faith, I'm the smoothest podcaster in the world because I'm like a human thumb. Why don't you comment below the YouTube channel, Mike's Daily Podcast? It's youtube.com/Mike's Daily Podcast. and say hello. Let's start a little chat, everybody. And of course, listen to today's podcast, which you can find also at MikesDailyPodcast.com. What's this arm doing? Oh, there's a finger that's about to turn off the deal. Okay. Yes, I'm going to upload that. Let's see. What did we want to cover today? No, but I was listening to the local station KALW, which I plug and I slug them constantly. And I slugged them the other day because they had on some guy that said something really irritating about Lady Antebellum, which goes by Lady A, and was saying some asinine thing about how they purposely went out to hurt the blues artist, the African-American blues artist who was struggling. They were actively trying to hurt her, and I thought, well, that's ridiculous. You have no idea. Lady Antebellum is probably the last thing they thought. They just thought, hey, people call us Lady A. We want to drop the Antebellum part, so we're Lady A. Whatever. Anyway, that story came and went. Why did I bring that up? That was last week. And so many things have happened since last week, haven't they? So I'm grieving for my lost dog, as you can tell. And I don't think you should look down on someone who's grieving for a lost dog or a lost pet, a cat, a bird, a guinea pig, a rabbit, or whatever. When there are people that go to funerals all the time, I myself included, the funerals for people that were despicable, that were horrible. I went to a funeral once where the person was unliked by, as far as I know, everybody on this planet, yet people were still able to muster up something nice to say about them. It was fascinating, and it usually went back to the childhood. Do you remember when so-and-so did this back when we were kids, blah, 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 and everybody laughed. So we go to funerals for despicable human beings. I can't remember, I've never gone to a dog funeral where everyone hated the dog. Usually everybody loved the dog, and well, actually, no, I'm thinking of someone who has a dog that dog is despicable. This dog is the B word in every sense. But at any rate, you get my point. For the most part, animals don't let you down. Cats get a little snobby, but dogs are usually loyal. As we go outside a cafe anyway, where we bring you Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcastro Valley today. I was just thinking about that. Oh, I saw a Will Ferrell movie that cheered me up. This one on Netflix where he's from Iceland. And Rachel McAdams is his love interest in it. And then there's the guy from Downton Abbey who got killed off in a car crash suddenly. That guy, he plays a Russian guy. I didn't even recognize him until about halfway through the movie. I'm like, hey, it's the guy from Downton Abbey. It was funny. It has these outlandishly cheesy singing scenes where people are singing and big, huge camera angled, swooping camera effects. I mean, they spent a lot on this movie, and it's only being seen, as far as I know, on Netflix. But it's pretty funny. I mean, Will Ferrell, he has no shame, basically. He says, I will do a really bad Swedish Icelandic accent this entire movie, and it'll be fun. And I'm going to talk Rachel McAdams into it. And I was impressed. It was way better than that ice skating movie that he did years ago with the guy from Napoleon Dynamite. So if that says anything, wasn't as good as Talladega Nights or Anchorman or Step Brothers. But the guy behind those three movies, Adam McKay, he was like the executive producer. So that's my positive. I want a nice little positive, strange little distraction. Plus, there's a guy in that movie that reminds me of Orson Welles. He is like a young Orson Welles. He's huge like him, and I hope he's going to lose that weight at some point, because he's a little too heavy. At his age, to be that heavy, that's kind of scary. So, I don't know, but he sounds just like Orson Welles when he talks, so he could be the perfect, if they ever going to do an Orson Welles movie about Orson, biopic type thing. The podcast picture today. Oh, and I wanted to mention one other thing, and that's doom scrolling. It's this thing that you do where you are constantly looking through a stream of negative news stories. Talking about positive and negative things today. You want negative ions from the ocean. They make you feel good. It helped me a lot this past Saturday. I had a horrible Friday. It hasn't even been a week, has it? Last Thursday, a week ago today, was my last full day with my dog. And then he was gone by the next morning. But the next day, on Saturday, after that horrible Friday, my lovely lady friend and I went by the water, by the ocean. Well, the bay, anyway, which is mostly, where we were at is mostly seawater. And it was, those negative ions. I think I felt a huge jolt of energy that helped me out. So I'll post this picture of this beautiful tree that my lovely lady friend and I saw in Podcastro Valley, actually in Five Canyons. We went on this walk on, let's see, it was Monday. Yes, I took a day off from work. Which, hey, everybody, if you know someone who is going through a tremendous loss and they take a day off, do not email them on their day off or CC them any stupid stuff like ridiculous complaints that someone had. Hey, someone, just letting you know, someone complained about blah, blah, blah. You know, just the frivolous emails. Keep that away from people that are going through a mourning period, that need a day off. Oh my gosh, it was ridiculous, the stuff I read. I made the mistake of reading on the day I took off an email, and it just made me so irate. And I was nice about it. I said, okay, I'll look into it. But, I mean, just come on. The insensitivity. Oh, and this other insensitive thing people do. Look, I went through a lot with my dog, Basil the Boxer. He had a long life, but the end was hard. I have a complete, as I mentioned last podcast, compassion for anyone who helps someone who's a, at-home assistant type, helping out a relative. It is tough work, and this was a dog. I can imagine a human, very, very, that must be very difficult. And here's what I learned is that, wow, you have to tip your hat to those people. They do an amazing job. And that, it really draws you close to that person, to that, or dog, or whatever in this case, whatever the case may be. And yeah, so anywho, what I was getting to was the podcast picture is a tree. And it's very positive and growing and green. And I think, all in all, we need to remember these things and move forward, and don't doom scroll. And who's outside a cafe anyway? Who's here right now?
Hello, Mike Matthews. It's Chely Shoehart, gift shop supervisor. I wanted to say I'm really sorry about Basil.
Thank you, Chely. Look who else is here. Oh, Mike, this is Floyd the Floorman. And this is John Deere, the engineer. Yeah, that's really sad about your dog. Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you. Thank you. See, that's all I was asking for. A little bit of that. A little compassion thrown at me. That's all I need. Next show, it's going to be the wonderful Benita, the Disgruntled Fiddle Player, and the Brewmaster. And you can comment on anything, which you probably won't because you don't exist. 336MM Daily, 3 + 3 = 6. MM as in Mike Matthews, Daily as in what this podcast will try to be. And I'll definitely be doing one tomorrow morning. Yes. God willing, of course. Almost forgot to throw that in there because you never know, right? 336MM Daily. Take it away, A-Frame.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at MikesDailyPodcast.com. Email Mike now at MikesDailyPodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Oh, and I remember what I was going to say was if you know someone who lost a dog, the last thing you want to ask them is, are you going to get another one? That is so insensitive. That's what I meant to say. Don't do that. You don't know what they went through at the end with the dog. I mean, they may not want to ever have a dog again because it was such an emotional experience. Just think before you talk is all I'm saying. I do that a little bit on this show. But if I did too much of it, you wouldn't like the show. It wouldn't be that interesting. Oh, wait, no one listens to it anyway. But find out more about the show at MikesDailyPodcast.com.